This is Esmeralda Teresa Hernandez Polanco. Today is Sunday, March 10th. They are not allowing me to know the location of my children. I'm not allowed to speak to them over the phone, and I don't even know if they're safe. Like I said previously, I was a mental health therapist for years, working for LA contracted agencies with the Department of Mental Health, and I worked with children my whole life. And I always tell my children and my clients that I used to work with, the children, to keep themselves safe and that they have a right to keep themselves safe. So today I want to read this book called The Right Touch. It's how to talk to kids about preventing sexual abuse and who your safety people are and who to reach out to. That is my biggest fear right now, is that they are not protecting my children, because there was a report made against my ex-husband's sister for child abuse years ago. She pushed my child and she came back with a busted lip once. And a second time, my daughter had reported to me that paternal aunt told her it was okay for people to touch her private parts. So this was a case that was investigating years ago, and a social worker, licensed social worker, Vivian Nguyen, made my ex-husband sign something stating that Maria Leonora Hades could not be around my children, and that is in all of our legal documentation, both in Florida and in Orange County, where we have a real case. I still believe this paperwork to be fabricated, and especially because they removed them from a comfortable, loving home. If my kids are in foster care, I don't even know if they will be safe. There are horrible statistics in foster care. There are people who become foster parents for the money and don't really care about the children. There are people who become foster parents because they're child perpetrators and they want to have access to children. So I'm still baffled why you would remove two innocent children from an innocent mother and just take them from their comfortable home again and placing them in a dangerous situation. I really hope that my children are not exposed to abuse or neglect. There was, when I was working as a therapist, there were foster parents being investigated for neglect of the children, reporting that they don't feed them enough. One child was only 2 years old and died in a foster home. Maybe they didn't understand their medical needs. Maybe they weren't feeding them. But this is the danger. Is DCFS right in removing children from people's care, especially when they are targeting innocent parents? Is DCFS the right thing to do? Are you actually investigating? No, nobody investigated me. Not a single person investigated me. So how can you tell me that there's a removal order to take my children from me? I still haven't confirmed if that's real. I went to Edelman's courthouse, children's courthouse, like I said, and they had no case on me whatsoever. So I don't know where my children are. Please pray for their safety. I pray that they're not being trafficked. I pray that they're not being abused. And I pray that they're not being neglected. Nobody understands my children's medical needs the way I do. Okay, they do have very specific dietary needs, which is why I cook often at home. But I want to remind my children, Belina and Evangeline, you have a right to fight back and protect yourself. There is wrong and right touch, and it is not okay for anyone to ever touch your private parts. Okay, private parts in a woman are the breast, and this, I'm just going to read you this story because it tells you more. It tells you specifically what it means to keep safe. And this is called The Right Touch, a read out loud story to help prevent child sexual abuse. By Sandy Clevin, LCSW, written by a licensed clinical social worker. Illustrations by Jody Bergsma. Oh, and by the way, I received a letter from the Board of Behavioral Sciences saying they couldn't discipline Funmi Tofowomo because she isn't a registered or a licensed social worker, so they can't discipline someone who they don't even know about. And that's the sad part. So I have to file a complaint with DCFS about this non-credentialed social worker. I'm credentialed. She's not. So I'm going to read this for all these children out there who have been wrongfully placed in foster care. And even then, I think having orphanages run by licensed professionals would be even safer than having to manage thousands of foster homes that might not even be appropriate. Children get lost in the system all the time, and it is dangerous. You should have children's facilities run by licensed professionals and not have all these random people being foster parents, because that's when children get abused in the system. That's when children get neglected, and it's not being talked about. This says, a note to parents and teachers. The right touch was developed as a gentle and thoughtful tool for teaching skills to prevent child sexual abuse. All of us, especially children, need affection and personal contact. However, children should be taught that secret, deceptive, or forced touching is wrong and should be immediately reported to a trusted adult. They should know how to firmly resist when touch becomes inappropriate. Sex offenders admit that compliant children are much more likely to be victimized. Since approximately 80% of those who abuse children are known to the family, it isn't enough to teach stranger danger. Offenders may be trusted authority figures or even family members. Young victims often feel a sense of complicity and are afraid to tell because they think they will be punished. Offenders use this fear to intimidate children into keeping quiet about abusive incidents. The right touch validates a child's innate warning system. Children generally sense when things aren't right. So it's important to encourage them to trust their feelings and seek help. Jody Bergsma's Garden of Children poster on the back cover can be used to help children visually identify their feelings and emotions. The illustration on page 23, Girl's Body, Boy's Body, presents an easy way to teach the names of private body parts. I have omitted labels so parents can choose the words they're most comfortable with. At what age is it appropriate to teach prevention skills? When a child is able to sit still and pay attention to a story, he or she is old enough for the right touch. If a child tells you about an abusive situation, I offer the following guidelines. Believe the child. Always believe the child. Children don't make things up like that person's touching me. Assure the child that it was right to tell and that the abuse was not his or her fault. Don't confront the accused offender. Call the child's helpline. Request assistance from the police, sheriff, or child protection agency. But clearly, they aren't helping or protecting my children. Call the Child Help USA hotline at 1-800-4A-CHILD. Trained counselors are available 24 hours a day for crisis intervention and referrals to counseling agencies and support groups. Literature is available on request. Children and adults may be connected to counselors in 144 languages as needed. Use the internet to find a vast network of resources to help deal with this unfortunate but all too common problem. The Child Help USA site is a good place to start. www.childhelpusa.org, or you can email to help@childhelpusa.org. I think I need to email these people after I read this book. Sandy Clevin, LCSW. When Jimmy's mother tucks him in bed at night, they always talk for a while. They talk about interesting things, silly things, and serious things. One night she said, "One of my favorite things is tickling your tummy." She tickled him gently and Jimmy laughed. "I also like to give you hugs," she said, cuddling him close. "And most of all," she teased, "I like to pretend to bite your ear." She nuzzled his earlobe and made turkey sounds. Gibble, gobble, gibble. So that's mommy being playful in this picture with her son. Jimmy laughed again. "Stop it, Mom, stop." "Okay," she said. "When you say stop, I always stop, right?" Jimmy took a deep breath. "I was just kidding. Do it again." "Not now," said his mother, "because I want to talk about touching problems." "If I kept tickling you and I wouldn't stop no matter what you said, that would be a touching problem." "That would be a mean thing to do," said Jimmy. She nodded. "There are other kinds of touching problems too. So if somebody is touching you and you say stop, you could put your hand up like this, children, say stop, don't touch me. And they have to stop because everybody's level of touch comfort is different. Some children have special needs and are not okay with certain touch. Me, who has myalgia, certain touch might hurt me more than other people. And some children might just not feel, like giving everyone they know a hug and a kiss just because their moms tell them to. It's actually wrong to force a child to show affection to an adult if they do not feel comfortable. You have to teach them that this is my body. I am in control of it, and nobody gets to touch my body. It's mine. It's my temple of God that God gave me. This is God's body. This is my body, meaning I'm a child of God, and nobody has a right to touch me. If I say no, no means no. Even a hug can be inappropriate if somebody doesn't want to be hugged. Hugs are beautiful. My daughters love it when I give them hugs. But that's why it's better to say, "Hey, are you okay with hugs? Can I give you a hug?" Don't always assume that people are okay with hugs. It's not because hugs are wrong, but you don't know what that child's been through. If they're a victim of child abuse, you don't know if that woman's been sexually assaulted. You don't know their story. So respect their body and say, "Hey, is it okay? Are you okay with me giving you a hug?" That's the better approach because you never know somebody's trauma history. Like when Spot licks my face. Yuck. Yes, she said. Or when a bully gets you down and sits on you and won't let you go. That happened to me once, Jimmy agreed. It did, his mom asked. How did you feel? I was so mad. You sound mad. I'm sure glad you're safe now. Here you go. See, he wasn't okay with this situation. He was so mad. Then Jimmy's mother asked, Have you ever been tricked? Jimmy wondered. Do you mean like when someone says, open your mouth and close your eyes and you will get a big surprise and the surprise is a worm? Yes, his mom said, that's what I mean. But there are other tricks too. Once there was a little girl, and this is where his mom starts talking to him about abuse and being safe. So mommy's telling him a story about another little girl. Do I know her? Jimmy asked. No, but she's a real person. One day when the little girl was playing outside, a neighbor walked up and said, Would you like to come over to my house to see some new baby kittens? Since she knew this person, she went with him. When the girl was inside his house, she looked all around. Where are the kittens? She asked. So a neighbor asked his little girl to come inside his house and see kittens. It isn't safe to go into people's houses, not even your neighbors, if you're a child and you haven't asked your mom and dad's permission. And a rule of thumb, something that I've learned as a previous therapist, is adults have no reason really to be in children's rooms that aren't their parents, like, tucking them in to go to sleep. So I remember I have a family friend who told me a story about abuse. And like he said, there was no reason for that man to go upstairs to my niece's room. There was a bathroom downstairs. That's not where the bathroom was. So when you have big family parties, it's better to lock the bedroom doors and not give anyone that access of having a secret spot to hurt children. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's a danger. No, they're not. But 1 in 3 children get sexually abused by somebody that they know, either a neighbor, a teacher, a friend. It could be anyone. Now, here in West Covina, at the school district, they were boycotting one of the teachers because they weren't okay with having a sex offender at the school. Neither am I. This is exactly why I started homeschooling my children, because my daughter was crying way too much at school and it wasn't normal. Pay attention to those tell signs that your children give you. Believe your children. They have no reason to make up that somebody's touching them when they don't even know what that means. They're not dirty minded. So how would they make something like that up? Think about it. So this little girl's going in. Where are the kittens? The man said, "If you sit on my lap, I'll show you the kittens." Then the little girl got an uncomfortable feeling. She was about to go home when the man tried to put his hand down her panties. He did? Jimmy asked. So she didn't feel comfortable anymore. And he tried to touch her in her underwear part, and that's not okay. Nobody should touch underneath your panties or in your pants. Yes, he did, Jimmy's mother nodded. So the little girl ran out of there as fast as she could. Did she get away? She ran all the way home and told her mother and father what had happened. What did they do to the man? He got into big trouble. What he did is wrong. It's against the law, too. He will have to learn never to try anything like that again. Why would somebody want to do that to a little kid, Mom? Asked Jimmy. I don't know, honey, his mother answered, shaking her head sadly. I just know that it does happen sometimes. But if we talk about it, we can help you be safe. She did the right thing. She went home and told Mommy. Do you remember in the story where the little girl felt uncomfortable? Jimmy nodded. Lots of kids say they get warning feelings when things are not safe. Some children say it's a nervous feeling. Others say that their tummies feel upset. So be sure to pay attention when warning feelings tell you to watch out. Does it feel like when you're gonna throw up? Asked Jimmy. It might, Jimmy's mother smiled at him. Or you could feel tickly and prickly like a nervous cat. Warning feelings are like a safety whistle. See, you might get that feeling in your stomach. You might start feeling worried, danger, warning, run. If you don't feel comfortable, you have the right to walk away to a safer location. Jimmy's mother looked at him and smiled. Your whole body from head to toe is private and belongs to you. Some parts of your body are extra personal and private. We wear bathing suits when we go swimming so we can cover up our private places. Private places are off limits for touching unless there's a good reason. So she's showing him a girl's body and a boy's body and where the private parts are. So underneath your underwear, nobody should ever touch the front and the back. For a woman, you cover up your top chest part. For a bathing suit, nobody should ever touch you there ever. But remember, even a hug could be wrong if it's making the other person feel uncomfortable. So whenever someone says, stop, don't touch me, we need to respect their space bubble and say, okay, no problem. No harm intended. I think it's better to teach children grammatical, like human anatomy, the correct parts. Because if you give them weird names, the children aren't going to know what it is if a perpetrator asks them, can I touch your this? Can I touch you that? If they don't know the correct human anatomy, they're not going to know to say no because they don't know that. I taught my children human anatomy to keep them safe. They understand their female body and they understand that they're not supposed to be touched in their private parts. And if someone asks them to say no and to talk to a police officer, although I don't think police are helping here and I think they're trying to cover things up, and that's what makes me feel very scared for my children. Your safety people should be your parents, your teachers, law enforcement, but I'm scared that law enforcement is covering something very bad here, and that's what scares me. What if I have a sore on my bottom? Jimmy asked. What do you think? I'd want you to fix it. In a case like that, it would be okay for dad or me to take care of things. It's also okay for a doctor or nurse to check you all over and give you a shot in your bottom if you need one. It's okay to change a baby's diaper. And of course, babies and small children need help with washing and drying. So when you're a baby, right, parents have to wipe you. And even if you're a little bit older and you're being potty trained, or if you still have accidents, parents help wipe you, they help dry you, they might help shower you. But it's never in an inappropriate way when you're just cleaning somebody. Now, when you have a doctor's visit and an annual visit, a doctor always checks private parts to make sure that they're clean, healthy, that there's no infection, and there isn't any sign of abuse. So at the annual doctor's visits, a doctor will always, a pediatrician will always check a child's private parts to make sure that, again, that it's healthy, that there's no infections, and that there is no sign of abuse. But who's with you there, mommy and daddy, or your parents? So the parent that takes you to your annual doctor visit is there watching to make sure that there isn't any inappropriate touch and that it is just an annual visit checkup, which is exactly what happens once a year with children. What if I have a sore on my body? Jimmy asked. What do you think? I'd want you to fix it. In a case like that, it would be okay for dad or me to take care of things. It's also okay for a doctor or nurse to check you all over and give you a shot in your bottom if you need one. It's okay to change a baby's diaper. And of course, babies and small children need help with washing and drying. And that's another thing. If they have a diaper rash, people put diaper cream. I know that for a while, my youngest daughter had a lot of stomach problems. She has a slow digestive system and she does have some dietary problems with her digestion. So I still help her, even at the age of 7, with her hygiene after she uses the restroom because of that, because for medical reasons. And when she was very little, when she was 2, she had a really, really hard time going to the bathroom without it being painful. So one of her pediatricians prescribed her a Novocaine, which was like a numbing gel to put on her bottom so that when she went to the restroom, it didn't hurt. And then if she ever needs ointment, I still help her with the ointment. So again, everything has to do with if it's medical or if it's inappropriate, and people would know that, and the child can tell the difference. Children can tell the difference between abuse and, someone putting diaper rash cream on somebody. Okay. Now, let's say someone was trying to touch you under your clothes. What would you do? I'd want them to stop. The first thing you do is tell that person to stop. This might be hard to say to someone who's bigger and older than you, so I think we should practice. Can you say, stop it, I don't like that? Stop it, I don't like that. Jimmy repeated in a loud voice, stop it, I don't like that. It's okay to get loud when you are in danger. Do not stay calm when you are in danger. That's not the time to stay calm. You get loud. You alert people. You ask for help. Good job, said his mother. You sounded like you really meant it. I want you to remember that no one has a right to touch private parts of your body, only for medical reasons. And again, if you're not at a doctor's visits getting a checkup to make sure you're healthy, or you're not getting diaper rash cream because you have a rash when you're a baby, there is no reason, not even for mommy or daddy, to be to be touching you. Not even your own parents should ever be touching you if it isn't for changing your diapers, trying to help you wipe in the bathroom, if you have some sort of medicine, ointment that needs to be placed, but you can try to have your child do it on their own as much as possible. Not even dad or me, she said. If there isn't a good reason, say no, just like we practiced. I know that could be hard because kids think they should do whatever they are told. But some people are pretty mixed up. Sometimes grown-ups, babysitters, and bigger kids try to trick children into secret touching games that might seem like fun at first. If something like this happens to you, don't be afraid to tell me, even if it is supposed to be a secret. And remember, touching problems are never a child's fault. I would always tell Jimmy. I would always tell, Jimmy yawned. But you know what? What, honey? His mom asked. Can I please have a drink of water? Jimmy's mother smiled. I'll get you a drink of water, she said, but you will remember what we talked about, won't you? Yeah, Mom, I'll remember. Say no, get away, no matter what happens, tell someone. And it's not the kid's fault. Kisses and cuddles I like a lot, but when I say no, please touch me not. So when my daughter was 2 and we were in Montana, she prescribed her with Novocaine. And both in Montana and out here, actually, at a Covina clinic, they asked me to give her a cap full of Miralax when she couldn't use the restroom in her orange juice or her beverage, just to keep her regular. And what it is, it's fiber, high fiber diet. And her current pediatrician said the same thing. Keep her on a high fiber diet if she needs that extra help. So that's the end of that. So this is for children's safety. Unfortunately, DCFS always thinks that they're right, but they're wrong. They are more than wrong this time, and they're going to get a lawsuit because I am going to get a lawyer to sue them. I'm also going to get a lawyer to sue West Covina PD for not looking into the facts and for not listening to my warnings, and especially because there is no Edelman's courthouse. And I hope that my children are safe and don't have to endure further trauma, and that they do not have to endure anything like this girl endured in the storybook. So please talk to your children. This book is called The Right Touch. I've had it for years. I used to read it to children when I worked as a trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapist who were victims of child abuse, because if we don't talk about it, how can we solve the problem? I am anti-DCFS after this experience. I am anti-foster homes. I think you need to open large facilities with licensed, trained professionals. Not just anybody should foster children. I don't think so. And make sure that they are well taken care of. It would be run much like a orphanage of, back in the day. I know boarding schools and orphanages aren't always best, but if you have licensed professionals versus just like a random foster parent taking care of kids, I think it'd be easier to manage and less abuse and neglect would happen in the system. And the fact that I was not investigated and all these false reports were made makes you really concerned for my children. So keep your children safe. If you want them to, you could read this to them yourself. If you want to show them this video, that's fine too. But you need to be able to talk about this. This is why I always say, don't touch me. I didn't give you the right to. No means no. Remember, kids, if someone's hurting you, scream, kick, yell. Don't stay quiet. That's not time to stay quiet. And you get loud and you say, stop, don't touch me. And you scream and you bite and you kick and you defend yourself because you have the right to protect your body.